Okay, go ahead.
So Mary's recording us. Hello, everybody, to share with our Blandin Broadband blog and others on our team that like to lean in and learn and listen from our conversation today. I know I'm delighted to be with you, and I think I can speak for the whole team to say we're sorry we're not there in person. We really enjoy coming up and being there. We've had some good meetings with you in your beautiful facility up there, and sorry we're not there in person today. But this is kind of our next best thing, and it's good to see those faces we can and hear your voice, Beth. The occasion is, this is our virtual Strut Your Stuff tour, as it says here on the slide. And we're just touching base with your team here as we approach the end of our partnership. It's been, you know, we're coming down to the end, and this is our chance really just to listen to you and hear from you about how the work has been going, what's new, the challenges, and what you're proud of. And that's really the agenda for today, is just to kind of listen and update you on where we're at, and then tie up any bows about the grant agreements that we have with you. But before we get started, I thought we could just go around and kind of introduce ourselves and do a little check-in. And I thought maybe we could check in with one another, so our name, our organization, and then something that gives you hope, something that you've read or heard about or experienced in the last week or so that's giving you some hope. Anybody willing to start? Who'd be willing to start?
I'll start.
Thanks, Beth. And then if you would, just to avoid the handoff, if you could nominate the next person, we'll nominate each other through the check-in that way. Thanks, Beth. Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm Beth Pierce, Director of the Iron Range Tourism Bureau, and I was just thinking the other day, that's why I wanted to go first, because I have an answer for hope, is just this warm weather and so much sunshine. It really helps, and I am thankful for that. So I will pass it off to Jamie.
I'm Jamie Niska. I'm the Marketing Director at Giants Ridge, and also part of the Attractions Council and the Marketing Committee for the Iron Range Tourism Bureau. And very similar along Beth's lines is, when it comes to hope, is new growth when it comes to flowers and vegetables and all the things that we love to grow as the season allows.
You get to pick who's next.
Oh, sorry. I got distracted. I'll pick Mary McReynolds.
Thanks, Jamie. I'm Mary McReynolds. I'm the Executive Director of the Lyric Center for the Arts in Virginia. One thing that gives me hope is, already been mentioned, the flowers are blooming, and I still have plants in boxes to put in the ground, so that's all good. I'm hoping that our dog is going to respond to dog training and become a nice docile thing instead of the puppy she is.
She's so cute, though.
Thanks.
The only good dog is a tired dog.
Oh, I like that one. I'll hand it off to Sean.
Hi, everybody. My name's Sean Husky. I'm a workforce strategy consultant with Deed. I'm involved working with Beth on the Hello Iron Range and some of the projects there. And the thing that I guess gives me hope is, well, that's a hard one. It's been kind of a downer week with Deed. I think the fact that you know, I'm not entirely sure. I may have to come back to me for this one. I'm not entirely sure at this time. Maybe this is something I need to think about. And let's see who I need to, let's see, I gotta widen this up a bit. I think Bill, have you gone?
I have not.
I will nominate Bill then.
Thanks. I'm Bill Coleman here on behalf of Blandin Foundation. And it is a struggle these days. I think, you know, certainly springtime and flowers. And now here in the Twin Cities, it's certainly summer. It was 90 yesterday. So that, as always, we go from, you know, kind of a miserable 50 degrees to 90 degrees when most people would like it someplace in the 70s. But I think there is hope. I put fishing kayak on Craigslist, and I've got people lined up to buy it now. So I have hope for closing the sale later today. So, and money in your pocket's always a good thing. So I'll pick on Mary.
Hi everyone, I'm Mary Magnuson from the Blandin Foundation. I'm the grant administrator for this program. What gives me hope? It's like I was outside for much of the afternoon on Sunday, and there was a Black Lives Matter protest just like 3 blocks away from me, and I was kind of like, you know, sometimes those things can have a negative side effects in this area, but you know, I could hear it, and I could hear cheers, and given the gravity of the precipitating event, people sounded happy, and there were cars honking, and it just seemed like a really positive thing. Now there were some rumors going around town from people that weren't there to witness it, but you know, I think those have been pretty well quashed now. But you know, just being outside, seeing my grass grow and the flowers grow and my vegetables grow, and hearing positiveness coming from down the street, that gave me hope. Why don't I pick Whitney?
Hi, Whitney Ridlon, Community Development at the IRRB, and this Blandin Broadband Partnership Liaison at the agency. I am hopeful for summer, just hopeful for summer, a fun summer. Last night I rode my bike around Chisholm Lake with Della, and we made lots of stops and looked at the little geese on the lake, the babies, watched the older geese fight. We stopped at a dock and dunked our feet in the lake, and it was just really it was exciting. It was just exciting to think of the fun summer that we're going to be able to have doing activities like that. I gotta pick someone, and I'm not looking. Who? And I was late. Did Betsy go?
No, I was gonna suggest Betsy.
Okay, I picked Betsy.
Yeah, no, I haven't gone yet. Can you hear me now? Okay, I don't know, something's going on here with my Zoom, but hopefully you can hear me. Betsy Olavanti, Small Business Development Consultant and an Iron Range Tourism Board member. I think I'm the vice chair this year. Last year I was the secretary. That was a little bit more familiar. So this is a new role, but helped out with the technology audits and mini grants on this cohort as well. And we had some great successes with that. So I'm excited for that part to be shared. And yeah, yesterday we had hosted, because most of the public beaches and things are closed still, we hosted my little niece's birthday party at our lake down by our dock. And when she got done, she sat down in the chair and sighed and said that was the best birthday ever. So to me, that's you know, those are the kinds of things, little moments for me. So there you go. And I think everybody's gone, so I can hand it back to whoever's in charge.
Jan is left. I want to hear what Jan has to say.
So you're muted, Jan. Do you know where the unmute is? There you go.
Hey, yeah, I'm Jan Carey. I wear a few hats in some different organizations. Vice president of the Masaba Symphony Orchestra, a board of directors, and then vice president of other things. Oh, I'm not going to get into it. And an arts advocate. My hope message is change on November 3rd.
Thanks, Jan. Thanks everybody for checking. I think, so Bernadine Johnson with Blandin Foundation, and I'm hopeful, I am hopeful that other people understand better now what we've understood for a while on this team, that broadband is a critical infrastructure. And I do feel like we've kind of maybe burst through that now, you know, better anyway, and that it's pretty clear to everybody that this, you know, as I like to say, access denied is opportunity denied. And I think it's gonna, I think there is opportunity for us to really leverage this recognition, this moment in our state and nationally, that we have to ensure that everybody has opportunity, and the internet is absolutely critical for that. So I am hopeful about that. And I'm also hopeful because the other thing that gives me hope, seriously, are these teams that we've been meeting with. Whitney, Mary, Bill, and I, we've been making our tour of our 15 communities. And if you ever feel discouraged about what's going on at the national level or the state level, talk to local people about the work that they're doing locally to make their place better. And every place around the state, there are, that's going on. And I've certainly see the difference that dedication and hard work and caring and loving the place that you live can make. So that gives me hope. And I think we're going to get more hopeful here in a minute when we hear more about all the work you guys have done. Beth, I think I'll turn it over to you now, and you can kind of take us through the, just, you know, hear about the projects, and we'll just kind of take the conversation from there. So thanks for the check-in, and over to you, Beth.
Okay, thank you. Well, I have a few slides here, and I think when I get to the slide that, you know, other folks are specifically involved with that project, I'll just say a few things and then kind of turn it over to anyone else who wants to add something. But this first one, we didn't end up getting done. Oops, and I see, of course, the very first slide I have a typo in that, but it's $2,000, and there was some desire among, you know, on the initial committee to really find out what was happening on the East Range with connectivity in campgrounds and some attractions. And, you know, I think that the East Range Joint Powers Board kind of ended up taking that on as one of their projects as well. So, so this project, we took the budget and we rolled it into another one of these things that we're doing. And it was actually this one. So this is our local pride. The sort of the idea behind it was to spread good news, to put some stories out there that are positive instead of the negativity that we find online a lot and in our newspapers. And what we ended up doing was creating a Facebook page, an Instagram account, and a web page. And this is the Facebook page. Does this show up for everybody? And you can just see, you know, we're reaching around 1,000 people.
Yeah, we're not seeing the Facebook page.
It's not working that way. Okay.
No, I'm afraid not.
All right. Well, if you try to do Real Ranger on Facebook, you will find it. And we have about 500 followers. Our posts are reaching about 10,000 people. And so we have we're working with some local writers, and they're doing stories, they're doing videos, they're taking pictures. We're going to put out a couple of billboards to encourage people to find these stories online, share these stories, give us story ideas. And then you know, we're just a very small portion into our budget because we've been able to do all this stuff kind of on our own behind the scenes. And the web page lives on ironrange.org.
Hey, Beth?
Yes?
If you stop sharing and then restart and then pick more your desktop as opposed to just the PowerPoint, then all those things will show up.
So stop sharing.
Right. Now share. and then pick the desktop. There we go.
Okay. So this is obviously my view of this, but you can see our page. This is the latest story about a Real Ranger campaign that we're doing. These are just kind of people in our communities doing good works. There's a little doggy with a mask on. But I mean, reaching 6,000 people, which is good. Kind of depends on who's involved. Reaching 700 people. Reaching 400 people. This one was kind of our big story down here. I will show it to you quickly. So Itasca Strong sort of inspired this woman to do come up with some T-shirts for Iron Range Strong, and they were selling these and donating the proceeds to area businesses that were closed. So we had a really good reach on that one, and
we
lots
talked
of
about
positive
that story
remarks.
yesterday, Beth.
What's that?
We talked about that story yesterday with the Laurentian Chamber Strut Your Stuff, because that her online store was paid for by the micro grants that we did through the chamber. So
oh, cool.
Yep, this group ended up being pretty familiar with her.
So I will do this then, if I can figure this out. I won't show you our website. You can look at that on your own if you like.
Beth, do you want to talk about how you and I have chatted about the tie-in with the campaign continuing on through music celebration with everything?
So Jamie was really the lead on this project, and I will turn it over to her.
Oh, see how you are? So one of the other things too I want to add, we are going to have a story, oh geez, in the, there's a local publication coming out in the beginning of July, I believe, and we're going to write a story about the Real Ranger campaign and what it is and how it works and how we want people to participate. And one of the things that we've been working on as the Tourism Bureau as well is, Beth, you really can speak more about this better, the music end of it.
Well, and this is something that I was going to talk about at the end, because one of our projects, which was a virtual reality mine tour, fell through. It was extremely difficult to work with the mining companies in the first place, and now, you know, most of them are, any of the ones that we would have been able to work with are closed until sometime in July. Maybe it might be July 1, but sometime in July anyway. And so, you know, that's the last thing that they're going to be worried about when they go back is accommodating our little crew of video people. So we kind of just decided, although I did hear back from Cliffs, and they really expressed an interest in being able to use this as a training tool and a promotion tool for themselves, and want to work with us next year. I think at that point I would just ask that, you know, maybe they have some skin in the game if they want to see the project happen. I still think it's a good project. I still think it's worthwhile, but maybe if they realize that they can benefit, maybe they will help fund it. So hopefully that is not dead. But anyway, that was a $39,000 budget, and so I asked if we could sort of reallocate that to some video projects that would showcase our trails and attractions throughout the year, and also maybe include some virtual tours of our attractions that have been shut down and are still shut down. That might be a tool that they can use moving forward to, in fundraisers or just to generate more interest in what they do. And then the other part of that would be something that we've talked about at my marketing committee, is that You know, we are the home of Bob Dylan, one of the greatest of all time, depending on who you ask. But I would certainly say our most famous person in the state. And there is a real musical heritage and history here that goes beyond Bob Dylan, and is in our. We have lots of talented local musicians. We have a symphony orchestra. You know, we have city bands. We have, you know, this whole polka identity that is kind of falling away, but it certainly was a huge part of life in this region for many, many years. And so, can we do something? This idea of music and sound, and what has really become a very visual world. Can we talk about the sounds of our area and the music that is made by our people and by, you know, the activities that mean so much to us? Is it, you know, just waves lapping on the beach? Is it, you know, a four-wheeler or a snowmobile firing up? What are those sounds that make us who we are here on the Mesabi Iron Range? So hoping to work with local musicians. We're hoping to create a theme song through a contest, a theme song to represent our area, and hopefully try to bring people together, you know, if we can this year, in a way that celebrates the music of the Mesabi. And I hope that happens. I think some of you probably have heard of the Lockdown Lounge that came about during you know, stay home, stay safe, and all of the musicians that have participated in that, and its reach, you know, has gone far beyond the Iron Range. And how can we kind of curate those performances? How can we keep that going? You know, once we're free to move about again. So there's kind of a lot of thinking around that. Not a lot of actual action yet, but one of the things we wanted to tie it in with Real Ranger too. So in that celebration.
But then you get Bob Dylan to come and be the host and moderator of your talent show.
That would be cool. So sorry, Jamie. Back to you.
I stuck my foot in there based on our conversation yesterday. That's all I really have, I guess. I think this is something that can organically continue on its own, and we'll continue to find the good stories of the people and places and things that are going on with the region, and make a valiant effort to showcase that as best we can. There's not a lot of that going on right now, so I think it's just an opportune time to showcase who Real Rangers are.
You know, Jamie, thank you so much for that. And I did want to ask a follow-up question. I'm remembering so vividly when we first met and had our vision meeting there, and there was a lot of talk at that time about trying to reclaim the image of the Iron Range as being welcoming and open to diverse perspectives and different kinds of people, and help people feel comfortable at home there. This Real Ranger effort seems like a real opportunity to do that if you're intentional about how you select, right, the rangers that you are profiling. Could you talk a little bit more about that? Is that in fact part of your intention, to show a diverse local culture?
Yeah, I think so. Beth and I, along with the help of some of our other committee members, honestly have really hand selected the stories and stories that aren't being told, or the good stuff that's not being featured in the area. And one other thing too, it's a total side note, but I kind of see it happening in other places already too. I'm a member of another group on Facebook, and it's based on the Iron Range. And the intent behind it was to share kindness during all the stuff that's going on right now in the form of flowers. So, you know, surprising somebody with a basket of flowers when they're not expecting it. And one of the comments on there recently was an individual who had just moved to the area and hadn't been able to network with anybody because of being at home on lockdown, And the simple thing of somebody leaving flowers at her doorstep made her feel welcome to the area. So I think it's happening organically in other places. It may not show up necessarily right on the Real Ranger page, but that's what we want to start happening on its own. That's all I have really right now.
Amy, how many Real Ranger stories have you done so far? And do you have a numerical goal for like how many you hope to do in a period of time? Just give me a sense of the.
We haven't done a whole bunch, maybe a dozen. There's definitely room for improvement there. We do have it set aside, you know, Beth and I put together. Beth, do you remember the number?
Of stories that we were going to do?
Yeah.
I think we were hoping for 25 within our budget, and then more that, you know, we would.
Yeah, we're sharing stuff that we see too that is happening in other places. So it's not just the stuff that we generate, but the stuff that we're seeing that is out there that is worthy of sharing.
Well, I just love the branding, the Real Ranger, because it gives you such an opportunity to talk about the qualities, the attributes that you're seeking to embrace and promote in your region. So I really congratulate you for that.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that one? Okay. The next one I wanted to talk about a little bit was our technology mini grants. And we really open this up to the folks who are part of the Iron Range Attractions Council. I want to say there's a couple dozen at least organizations and people that are involved with that group. And we had, I think 13 of them applied, and no, 12 applied, and we worked with the Evelyn Heritage Society, the Hibbing Historical Society Museum, the Hibbing Tourist Center, Iron Range Historical Society, Camp Vermilion, the Lyric Center for the Arts, Minnesota Museum of Mining, Minnesota Discovery Center, Sisu Heritage and / Nelamark Museum, Virginia Area Historical Society, Club Masabi, and the Finnish Homestead Tours. And so we didn't want to, I'll let Betsy talk about that, but here on this next slide you can just see some of the examples of what they used their $1,500 grant for, and it's been, I think it's been a really good program, and they're certainly incredibly appreciative of, you know, being able to use this and have flexibility as far as what they could use it for. So Betsy, did you want to?
Well, I just wanted to jump in that I've seen a lot of activity since these folks did this project. The Virginia Area Historical Society has been able to share much more to their social media platforms and has gotten new members because of it, and was extremely thankful for the ability to, because they had to close their doors. And so a lot of their revenue comes through people walking through their doors and leaving donations, signing up for memberships, those sorts of things. And so throughout this COVID-19 pandemic and the closure, they were able to really go and put a lot of focus online. And, you know, we're able to encourage folks to, they did a little fundraiser campaign, and that worked out really well, things like that. And I just seen them all sort of elevate their presence with, you know, with their various ways to communicate with their public, even when people can't go in. So it was amazing at how fortuitous and sort of, you know, the timing was on this, but it worked out really well.
Well, from my perspective, it's really fun to look at this list of organizations, the Sisu Heritage and the Lyric Center and the Historical Society. Those are really key cultural institutions in your region. And it's a little breathtaking to think that they hadn't had a good, you know, website, social media presence and all that, and to see them better positioned now for the future is very, very gratifying.
Yep.
And, you know, as a historian myself, somebody that likes to go through old stuff, to see the 1,332 pages of Evelyn mining news, there are people out there going to be very thankful for that. That's, you know, because if it's not online, that those kinds of documents aren't, it's like they don't exist. So that's very cool.
Yeah, I from my point of view, I think I love it when projects happen that wouldn't have otherwise ever been possible, and
Yep.
they just don't have the money. So that I love that the Historical Society has jumped on board, because, you know, we know they're really scraping by, and they don't have endowments, and they don't have a lot of money to play with. So, and they were fun for me to work with, because we kind of ran it all through, like, I was ordering things for them and shipping things to them and paying their bills, and so they just didn't have to handle anything, and they really, they were so happy, so it was fun.
Well, and I think too, Beth, I don't know how much they looked at the tourism board as a partner in prior, you know, before this project. And so, you know, they're part of your attractions council, but, you know, maybe didn't look at us in the same light. So this
Agreed.
sort of a thing, you know, bringing some resources to them was huge.
Yep.
Wow, that's a cool point, that there's a way for you to show value to your members. But just think about that, having an online donation button. I mean, every dollar that they get now is a dollar they wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yeah.
And,
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we do still have a few that haven't done their projects yet, and, you know, I think that's mostly just because they were closed down, and the Embarrassed Township one. Oh, wait a minute. Sisu Heritage. Yeah, they're going to use part of the money to actually have a line put in that they didn't have internet before. So that had to wait until thaw, you know. My original deadline was March, you know, and of course, to at least have your project, you know what it is, and you're gonna, you know, when you're gonna be able to do it. And there's one for sure that kind of got caught up in all this being closed and not knowing what's happening. And then the Minnesota Discovery Center and the Minnesota Museum of Mining too were kind of thrown off by COVID. So.
Beth, that Sisu Heritage, that's right in Embarrass, right?
Yes.
Was that a wireless provider that came in there? What more do you know about that connection? That's really interesting.
I don't know a ton about it, but I think it was, actually, let me look at my emails here.
I have my fingers crossed in anticipation. Who it is.
So, working on getting the internet connection in June. Let's see. We're waiting for the info and contract internet service at Nellemark, which can't be done underground until the ground thaws out. So I assume it was a short link from somewhere, and they must have had some township money, and they're just using this to cover the rest of it, because they said they had $655 left or something of their grant, and they were going to put it toward this laying of cable, I guess. So.
You think it's Zito?
What's that?
You think it's Lake Connections or Zito?
I don't know. I can email him right now. Maybe we'll hear by the time we're done.
Let me know.
That's a good story. That's the kind of story that Whitney likes to take back to her bosses, just like I like to take back to mine. That's a great story to see, you know, things getting filled in like that. That's great.
I'll just shoot him an email quick. Okay. So, anything more on that one? Okay, so our next one is the Arts and Culture webpage and interactive map. That one was actually the first project that we kind of banged out. we bought these computer tablets and had these stands made. You can see Drew Digby there looking at one at the Rural Arts Summit, and we have a map of artists, galleries, points of interest on ironrange.org. I think that I would like to sort of revive this again and go out and seek artists who are living in our, on the Iron Range and producing things that maybe they're not selling at galleries or at stores, but they're just online with Etsy or something like that, and give them another way to connect with the world through this website. Mary or Jan, do you want to talk about it? And I'll try to pull this website up. Should I try to do that?
Great.
Okay.
This is Mary. I was really excited at the Rural Arts and Culture Summit to have a kiosk set up of the tablets, and how many people came up to us and saying, wow, we've been trying to do this for a long time. We just didn't know how to do it. And, talking a little bit about the model we used of the, what was it, the Land of 10,000 Brews or something like that, that Jan had found. And so I think it demonstrated to a lot of people in rural areas all around the state that it's something that can be done, and what a value it is to be able to share the creativity of their local area. So I have one of the kiosks at the Lyric now, and I was really hoping to be able to maximize its use during the summer when we have a lot of tourists up, to be able to tell them, well, if you like what we have here, why don't you try this place over here, and here's the map, and here's where you can find it. But right now that's not happening, but it's something that will be able to be used forever, I think. And as Beth mentioned about getting other local creatives that do have either their own websites or Etsy sites or something like that on there as well, just to continue to populate it with local people who are creative and can help set up themselves to get more income. I think it's great. Jan, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, we do. I think we found that we have some competitors on how that have their own arts and culture lists and databases. So if we can pair or work with them more, I know some of them are more events calendar related, but they obviously have then within their calendars, they have those artists that we might be able to reach that we didn't reach before. We'll probably have to go back to Borealis Art Guild and McCrosty and Northwoods up in Cook and Lyric, just to revisit all of those connections they have to artists, so that we can, maybe we need to actually just take drives to those places and talk with them. But yeah, we need to make another effort to go back out there and seek those artists and musicians and creators of art and cultural things.
So I'm on the Grand Rapids Arts Board, and we're the ones that hold that the artist directory in Grand Rapids. Katie from McRosty, though, probably knows the most about it. And the struggle we've had is, keeping it up to date, because it only really works if the artists themselves, and I'm talking about like the art, getting actual individual artists to use it. So the problem we have is trying to figure out how to keep it up to date, and we're actually kind of thinking about revisiting the whole entire thing. So, certainly be interested in hearing from you all about any successes and that kind of thing. 'Cause, we have no budget or either, so.
What do you think would work better? I mean, what is a better way to do it? Are you guys thinking?
We're just looking to do it a little bit more economically, instead of, paying a whole, we have this directory up and it's hosted by another company, but the artists don't update it. So we're just not really sure how useful it is for us.
And maybe there's a way that, like when you buy ancestry.com or something, you get a year's subscription and you get a reminder email that it's coming due after the year. So maybe, every year or so, just an automatic email goes out to check their listing and update it.
That's another problem we have, is not getting contact information changes. So it's harder to get a hold of people after a little while.
But if they don't update it, then they get dropped off the map or something.
Right, yeah. So we're looking into it, but I'm sure Katie would welcome a phone call.
I would have to venture, and Beth, correct me if I'm wrong, but our obstacle to this particular thing is the geographic span, and it has to be to that area of Iron Range tourism, right, Beth?
It does not have to be. We have artists from outside of this area. We are only doing the map that has these different components of where, architecture, by local gardens, public art. That is just essentially the Iron Range proper. But our Meet the Local Artists, we have them from different areas. I don't think we went into Grand Rapids because you already have an existing database in Grand Rapids, but we have different, we have Cook, Ely, Silver Bay, so people are from all of Northeast. And I like how these listings look. I think there's some things that I would have done differently about this website, and I think that we could add to this, and there's a Duluth one, and to maybe be able to sort the artists differently, but so. So that is that.
And Jan, other than participating, there's no fee or anything for artists to be listed on this, right? It's just they have to kind of buy in and offer up their own content. Is that right?
Yes, and one of the struggles that we had was that, people don't have, they're not doing online sales. So they're artists, and they might sell their work at the Lyric, but they don't have their own website. So we were, Mary, would you agree that was a challenge with a couple people?
It was, and I think there were a number of them too that don't have home-based open studios, so they didn't want their addresses on there. So, figuring out a way to link them to a gallery or somewhere where their art was shown, so they wouldn't get people showing up at their house. So we kind of worked through that. We originally got this populated by setting up on MailChimp a form for people to fill out. So we had a database to start with. And yeah, there were lots of questions about, well, I don't have a website. I don't want people coming to my house and those sorts of things. But I think we did okay getting that sorted out. the best that we could.
So maybe in the future, the artist listings become less tied to the map and more just an ability to list by medium or by, I mean, I don't know, or maybe, I don't know, but I don't think this project is done, I guess is what in my mind it's not done. I think that I could definitely throw some advertising dollars behind it on Facebook or something just to kind of rejuvenate this again. So I think this one is still not reached its full potential, but we'll keep looking at it. So.
Well, on that point, Beth, do you have a sense of the universe of artists out there versus the ones you've already been able to bring into this project? Like, do you think this is what you've got on here is 10%, 60% of the potential participants? What would you say?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I think there are probably a ton of photographers. We don't have any photographers on there, and I don't know if that was intentional or not. Or maybe I shouldn't say we don't have any, but you know, they are not represented at all. There's well,
And good.
but I mean, and I know people who sell things online and make things in their home on their, you know, in their time. Is it fine art? You know, maybe not, but I guess I you know, it's a conversation that we have to have. If there are people making cool things on the Iron Range, maybe they're included. I don't know.
Yeah. I would say, you know, 10% may be a good guess. Maybe even less than that. There is a ton of potential to get a lot of listings on this. Jan,
I think that the key is to help the artists see in their interest in it, right? What's in it for them? Why should they? What do they benefit?
Well, to Mary's answer to Mary's question, I think, yeah, we're at maybe 10 to 20%, you know, of what's conceivably out there. You know, I've for years helped out with the fine arts department at the St. Louis County Fair. And of those, both amateur and professional artists that submit work, that's a big database. There are a lot of people that, I mean, there are hundreds of artists that bring things in, both at the professional and amateur level for the St. Louis County Fair. I know that they have a database of those people because they have to be in contact with them to send out the St. Louis County Fair flyers.
Yeah, that's a great.
They're not going to have a fair this year, but they do have a big database, and that would be a good one to try to tap somehow. And
I agree. I think that's a great idea. And how cool would it be if there was some way we could have some kind of online craft fair or art fair, because they're all canceled.
Yep.
I mean, is that something that we could pull off somehow and work on this web page?
We could certainly pattern it after the Together Apart exhibit that was at McCrosty. I had a piece in it, and we could pattern it after something like that. Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to look into that, see if there's examples of other places that have done some kind of online festival or virtual art fair. Somebody's done it somewhere. Can we just copy it and do something fun and cool around that?
Have they made an announcement about the Minnesota State Fair yet, about the fate for this year?
Yeah, they've canceled it.
Canceled. I wonder what they're thinking about an online version of the state fair. Wow.
I want to say they're not really going to do a whole lot.
But I would, thinking about all the 4-H'ers and all the people that usually submit for crafts and arts and that, and I don't know if there's.
They are doing some showcases for 4-H for both local, instead of the county fair, and state levels. Yep, they're already planning them. And so I don't know if that's the University of Minnesota Extension Service that's doing that, Beth, to connect with, or who that is, but they are planning 2 different levels of showcases.
Well, and I wonder, I'm just thinking it really, and maybe Mary, do you have any idea like what percentage of sales come from an artist going to the Blueberry Festival and, Land of the Loon and these kinds of shows? I mean, how much do you think they're potentially losing from their income by everything being canceled? I mean, it's really kind of an economic development.
Right. Well,
project.
One example is Spencer Hani. That's how he makes his living, is all the festivals that he does in the summer, not just up here, but around Minnesota and Wisconsin, and they're all canceled. So that's his basically his entire income. Yeah, well, he does some of those wine and paint events too, and nobody can do those right now either. So there are a lot of artists and creatives that their primary source of income through the festivals is gone. So.
Well, I'm just thinking maybe there's some other source of funding we could tap into, but that's an offline conversation. I'll look into that, and if anybody hears about anything that we could copy.
Well, Beth, I just would mention that I know Blandin Foundation, as part of their COVID emergency response, did make a modest grant to, I think, the Regional Arts Council, recognizing that artists are, from the economic development perspective, that loss of income for these entrepreneurs was a challenge. If I could maybe try to find out more, I'll follow up with you and see where that grant exactly went to.
Okay.
And Beth, many professional artists are offering free online demos, either through Facebook Live or YouTube, and I've been attending them like crazy. I mean, it's just like being at a workshop, an art workshop. The way the cameras are set up and everything, but what has happened is these professional artists have been able to get kind of like sponsors. So I think there is an opportunity for, maybe Iron Range Tourism to sponsor, an artist such as Louise Blandin, and give that as a local artist. Here you are, still trying to make a living, and this is how we're going to provide you with this opportunity, so that then that encourages you, that encourages the person attending that art demonstration online, that virtual online demonstration, an opportunity to still have contact with that artist, find out information more about them, find out about their website, et cetera, et cetera. So it's possible to have a conversation about that.
Okay, well, more to come on that, I think.
So, but I was going to say, Beth, if you're sharing your desktop, you should be able to go right back to your PowerPoint just via your desktop.
Oh, okay. Well,
so next time.
Let's see, where are you?
You can just leave it at this. It's fine. Yeah.
Okay, so onward. Next is Hello Iron Range. So this project was came from the folks in HR in our original groups, and they were looking for ways to let prospective employees know what this region is like, and find the things that they're looking for, housing, childcare, that kind of information. So we did have some really good meetings with these folks, Delta, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Essentia, L&M Radiator. You know, Sean was involved from DEED, and so we got some really good information and started to build this website. So this is not, it's not quite done. However, it is, and I'm gonna have to find it now, darn it. Sean, maybe you wanna, can I put you on the spot? Can you talk a little bit about it while I try to find the link, since it's not working for the slideshow?
Yeah, I can. As a matter of fact, I can post you the link in the chat here too. I think I have it right here. Yeah, so it's a really awesome talent attraction project that has been going on for a little bit now, going through various development cycles. And as Beth mentioned, we've had an opportunity to run it through a focus group of several local businesses. Beth mentioned L&M Radiator, Essentia, Fairview Range, Delta Airlines, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Anthem, the folks over at the Northeast Minnesota Office of Job Training, City of Virginia folks, an individual working on the Virginia Evelyn Gilbert School Consolidation, the local chambers. And talent attraction is just a major topic. Before the event, the COVID-19 pandemic and things like that, we had very little to no people coming to the Iron Range to live. Local, both in-state and out-of-state immigration was very low to the area, and we weren't really promoting ourselves how we could. Post-COVID, I think this site's going to be even more important because we want to be able to promote ourselves for the right reasons. There's a whole lot of media right now going on about, you know, escaping the cities or escaping COVID-19, and that's not really how we want to present ourselves. So I'm glad that a site like this is going up that's got a more positive message of why you would want to move to a rural area, why you want to move to the Iron Range, focusing on the positives of our community and the art and entertainment and things that we have to offer, along with the amenities that you're used to. We have Target, we have Caribou. Those things exist here. And that's one of the things that's highlighted on the site as well, is the fact that, you know, we do have everything that's positive about living in a rural community, and we have Target. You know, you're not going without. We have a mall, we have Caribou, we have a variety of different food options. While at the same time talking about the positive elements, which is, you know, we have very low commute times. We have childcare services that are available, that are located by the school, that are located. So there's all these resources that are available. We have good paying jobs and opportunities up here for you to move and to commute. Oh, she's got it up and running here. So I'm just excited about this entire project, essentially. And the work that Beth's done on it has been absolutely amazing. I mean, the site looks amazing, and that's all Beth. I mean, the work that she's done on this has just been incredible. And I just, when she sends me an update on it, it's just amazing to look at.
So this is kind of our tie-in with the Real Ranger too. We wanted to feature some voices of local people talking about why they live here, what they like about this area. And we incorporated Real Ranger into that so that we can make that connection pretty quickly. There's some videos. These are just some stories, first-person stories about what happens when people move here, what happens when people find their connection, and what those connections are. So that was one component that everybody kind of felt was going to be important. This is another, and this is not live, but this is another one of those maps that can look for what we want to see here. Big box. clinics. Daycares, and then below that is just a listing with more information. Schools and major employers. We did run into some hiccups on this. It didn't exactly go the way that I wanted it to go. I tend to think that anything is possible, and sometimes things just aren't possible. But we really have these kind of three main areas, and then you know, the ability to request a map and to kind of link to our website for information about the trails and other aspects. So here's our FAQs. And here's the internet one. We figured that would be a question people would ask, and I said, you know what, I don't even know what to write on this. Art Unlimited, you guys write something, and it looks like they were extremely neutral on that. But
We should beef that up. Oh.
Yes, please. We can definitely.
Well, you could beef it up by saying, and there is a whole bunch of active broadband champions across the Iron Range working hard to make it better.
I think you could say that there's fiber, you know, I think you could just add, I think you could up that a little bit with still being neutral, like, so.
So that was kind of the three pieces of this. We just sent it out to our team to have them look at it, so the comments are coming in, and we will work on kind of incorporating their thoughts and hopefully adding more partners to this area down here.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that this is, it's just nice. I mean, just taking a look at it, I love the background. I love the information that's on it, the boxes and stuff on that one page with all the important information, the points we're trying to get around. You know, really selling and promoting the area, especially the low commute times and the quality of life. And I mean, when we met with our initial focus group, you know, they had a ton of ideas on things they wanted the site, and they've just been incorporated so nicely into this that Beth's done such an amazing job just getting everything in there that needs to be in there. So,
well, one of the things that we talked about that I don't think it is in here yet, but it was about winter, because our large employers told us that people are very frightened of winter when they're thinking of moving here from Atlanta or from somewhere. So my page, we were going to do a whole page around that, and my website already has a special page for things to do in winter, and it has indoor activities and outdoor activities and a calendar of events. So we decided that we would just kind of link to that to let people know more about, you know, we're not closed down, and there are ways that you can connect with people even though it's winter. So kind of more to come on that page too. But
Hey, Beth.
Yes.
Do you guys I always feel so embarrassed asking this question, so please treat me with grace. Is Ely, do you guys consider Ely part of the Iron Range?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, I think Ely is part of the Iron Range. They're not part of the Mesabi Iron Range.
Yeah.
So I know they have their own uniquely, or Ely, whatever their thing is that they're doing up there.
Mm-hmm.
And we really didn't have one for the Mesabi Iron Range.
Yeah.
That's kind of our area that we covered with.
Yeah, they've done, they have a couple of sites. Eliite is one of them, and they've made an investment in some really beautiful footage. I don't know if this is drone footage or what, but I'm glad to know you're aware of their work. They're really trying to up their video content on their site. And this is, of course, more workforce directed, but still, I'm glad that you're aware of their work.
Yeah, and they have a whole separate tourism marketing branch too that I don't think the Eliites is, I don't know what all they have up there, but they have they have a tourism bureau too, so.
Mm-hmm.
But that's that project. So we'll go back to my slideshow if I can.
Sounds like that was when you were particularly invested in, Beth, though. I see your fingerprints over a lot of the stuff, the music and the arts and this too.
Well, it was, this one I really did like a lot because I just feel like we got such great input, and I learned so much from working with, I guess that was it, from working with everybody on that one and about what their needs are, and it was just a really good project. And not done yet, so. And I kind of talked about, you know, the fact that we didn't spend all this money. I have some questions about where we go from here with some of this stuff, but I don't know if this is the time for that, or.
Yeah, why don't we go there? Mary can kind of update all of us on where you're at and then answer your questions about that.
So kind of generally, we're working on I'm kind of doing two things at once here. We're working on an extension with our grant period with IRRR. Currently, everything is scheduled to end on June 30th, but we're looking at extending that through December 31st, which means that once you all have a plan, you can apply for an extension through December 31st to get all that money spent. And I know that you guys have had some changes that you're making to your budget, so I'm not 100% sure where you're at right now, partially because I'm not able to print everything, so it's hard for me to kind of keep track in my head. Do you want to just kind of update us on where you are as far as that $75,000, Beth?
So, well, I think we still have about, we have quite a bit of money that has not been spent, let me put it that way. So that entire virtual reality one, that was $40,000 that hasn't even been, you know, we maybe spent $1,000 of that on some planning stuff.
And the grant portion of that was $25,000, so.
Correct. So, yeah, so none of that would have been touched. Let me see, I can look in my.
Yeah. So the internet access assessment was $2,000.
And we did not spend any of that.
Yeah.
On that project anyway.
Right. Talent attraction, microsite, local pride campaign, small business trainings, and interactive arts map.
Beth, this is Mary McReynolds. Wasn't RAMS doing a series of internet assessments across the Iron Range? Or I know I did one. I think they were measuring upload and download time or whatever somehow, and I thought they were moving it to some other place. You know, maybe it was the East Range. I just don't remember.
Mary, you talking about the speed test that they did in St. Louis County?
Yeah.
I think, that RAMS spearheaded?
Yeah.
Yeah, and now that you're right, that has been expanded now to Itasca County and Coochin County. And I just was on a meeting this morning with Steve Giorgio, was saying that now Carleton County is also considering going in. But I don't think any of you guys, I don't think any of your money, if that was your question, was spent on that. The St. Louis County board made a decision to put in some money for that GeoPartners project.
Okay, so it wasn't the same thing as the project that Beth, you had going on. That was more to see if people could get connected in different parts of the East Range. Is that right? Your project?
Yes, they were going to see if there were what would make sense to give some of these locations internet access, if that was hotspots, if that was actually bringing internet there, so.
Yeah, as I remember, Mary, that project was really trying to take a look at arts and cultural institutions in the region to get a sense of their internet connectivity. So more, right, Beth? It was more focused on the arts, culture, attraction crowd.
And campgrounds and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I thought it was for visitors at the campgrounds or
Trailheads, that kind of thing, right? Sure, like if you went hiking or biking, was there internet access along those trails? Yeah.
Yeah, so that one didn't happen, and then the big one. All the other ones are right at budget, so, or just, nothing has gone over budget. None of the projects, I mean, I think that we're going to, if anything, be under. I don't know how that works if we then our grant administrator just returns the money, or what do we do with that?
We would rather you spend the money than return it. I know you were working on some other ideas. We would encourage you to the greatest extent possible to figure out what else you can spend some money on that would further the mission of, using technology to serve the tourism businesses, enhance tourism.
Yeah, we have gone ahead and launched that whole video project, but the virtual tours of some of our attractions and different locations, I'm meeting tomorrow to get some pricing on that. And I think that will be cool for a lot of things. I do think there's some fundraising, potential fundraising abilities with that for the individual attractions. Certainly will add to their marketing toolbox. And then even for us, we've been talking about, last year we did a familiarization tour with tour operators and resulted in like 5 bookings for different group tours for the summer. And maybe that instead of having them come up here in the future and taking them around and spending 3 days with them, we can do some virtual tours with them to generate that traffic in a different way. So that, I mean, that we'll definitely spend money on that.
Yeah, that's go ahead.
What does the reporting look like? What all do we have to start doing? Can we do it, should we do it at one time, or should we just do it as we're done with projects, or?
You can do it all at once. Of course, you can turn it into us all at once. If something gets done and you want to write a page about it, that would be great. I can send you the final report template so you can see what that looks like, but a lot of it is, in addition to results, a lot of things are questions about what you've learned, what you could have done better, that kind of thing. But if you wanted to just write up little paragraphs on project summaries as you get done, and just for your own ease of reporting, that works. But yeah, I can send you that template, and everything is due about a month after the grant period ends. So if you request an extension through the end of the year, it would be due on like February 1st.
Okay. So that you'll just send out a notice to us saying that, yes, you can request an extension, or should I go ahead and do?
All you need to do is let us know. I'm assuming you'd probably want it, since you have a fair amount of money to spend, I'd assume that you'd want it through December 31st. And then just let us know and it can just be what your plan is to identify more projects. Why, just something for our file saying that these 2 projects didn't happen and why. And then you'd like this additional 6 months to come up with a plan to spend and what kind of ideas you have, maybe, just so that the note looks complete on your file.
Okay.
Yeah. And, Bill is always a resource to help you work with your community members on coming up with more ideas if you need them.
Beth, does that extending through the end of the calendar year, when you think about it today, does that feel like that's going to be adequate, or it's hard to tell?
I think that's going to be adequate. Okay. I hope so. I mean, managing these projects is it's gone on for a long time, it feels like already. So I would certainly like to have them be kind of moving themselves along a little bit more. So
good. Well, did we succeed in kind of, we've touched base on all the projects, I think now, right? There's nothing on your list still to discuss?
Nope.
Yeah, wow, that was it's really inspirational. I'm so glad Anne is on with us. And it's funny from your point of view, you have like this giant laptop the way you were like this huge, where your camera angle is, looked really funny. Anne in her day job is an arts maven and music aficionado and all things musical and live, especially she loves. So I know she's really eager to share and help amplify the work that you're doing on showcasing. She's already tweeted out. I've been watching her Twitter feed today. So I hope you continue to see her as an ally, Beth, going ahead and a resource to help leverage all the good promotion you're doing of your region.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
So before we move to kind of wrap, I just wanted to share a few updates from our team. I think you guys are aware by now that we have a new CEO president on deck at Blandin Foundation. Kathy Annette, who's been our president and CEO for the last 9 years, is retiring here in June. And the board of trustees have selected as our new president a woman named Tulia Powers, whom I have not yet met. Mary and I met her on a Zoom call like this a couple of weeks ago because like many of you, I'm sure Blandin Foundation is dispersed. We're working from home. And so it's a challenge for our organization. You know, anytime there's a leadership change, of course, that creates stress and concern and change and all that stuff. And we're all dealing with a lot of that anyway. So it kind of feels like piling on to have a new CEO come in. And we're trying to figure out what that's going to look like to really meet her and get to know her. But one of my reasons I'm especially pleased that we're having this chance to touch base today is it gives me a fresh set of data points to share with her when we describe the work. You know, she comes from an economic development background, certainly social justice, but I don't think has any real fingertip feel personal connection with the work we're doing. So I really appreciate you guys spending this time with us today to tell us more how you've used these assets and the good work you're putting them to. So we have our new CEO coming in. Our broadband team, like many of you, I'm sure, continues to try to figure out how to retool and continue working in this post-COVID or COVID impacted environment, because Blandin Foundation is all about convening people and getting people together. You know, when you can't do that, we've had to, like you, figure it out. And here's an example. So meeting online, we're putting our you guys went through that initial cohort thing with us. Remember we had all the visioning meeting and all that. We're figuring out how to do that all online and learning as we go. So into the brave new world keeps my brain agile. It's hard to look around some of those corners though, isn't it? I couldn't imagine, you know, so like for example, we're putting our conference online, our annual broadband conference. I know many of you have attended that in the past. And so hear me say now that it's going to be an online engagement. Anne and Mary and I are working on designing what that might look like and thinking about dispersing it across the month of October. So we're going to have different ways of being engaged at the beginning of the month and some do it yourself on your own time stuff, and then reconvene at the end of the month. So stay tuned for more information on that. I want to also just mention, following up on maybe Mary McReynolds, your question about mapping, that there is some interest in having well, so the Minnesota Rural Broadband Coalition met today. You guys have heard of that, right? You're aware that there's this coalition. And at the meeting today, Blandin we've been approached to think about what it might look like to do that speed testing you referred to, Mary, statewide. that's been done in now these 3 counties and maybe Carlton, and what that might look like, and whether other partners are interested in trying to promote that speed test. That's the kind of thing that takes a lot more than money, though, because people have to do the speed test. So it takes a lot of effort to engage community, engage people, and promote it and market it. And Blandin Foundation is willing to be a partner, but we don't want to lead that on our own. So that conversation is ongoing. And then just one more thing I wanted to flag, in case you're likely to be hearing about it in the coming weeks. Part of the state's response to COVID in the governor's office was a request to stand up a new public-private partnership to address the needs of our students to have the tools they need to participate successfully in distance learning. And so the governor's office invited Best Buy to kind of take the lead in coordinating this new partnership. It's going to be called Partnership for a Connected MN. Blandin's been asked to step in and lead the rural internet access work stream. And the St. Paul Minnesota Foundation is leading on the urban work stream. And the goal is to ensure that the 25,000 students most in need in Minnesota have a device, a connection, and the skills and support to use it so they can participate successfully this fall in distance learning. We're just trying to, and the partnerships plan, and the private sector and the business partnerships taking the lead, is to raise up to $10 million that they want to get out the door in the next 4 to 6 weeks for that purpose. So it's kind of trying to figure out what that might look like. We're considering working with the Minnesota Educational Technology Network hubs. So like, for example, in your region, it's NESC, right? Northeast Service Co-op, yeah, is in the part of that network. And we're convening reps from those 19 technology access clusters, they're called, today or this week, to get some feedback on that. Hopefully, as that proceeds, that there'll be chances for the school districts, students in schools in your area to participate. So,
wow, that's a quick turnaround time.
I know. I know. I've never been this up close and personal in standing up a public-private partnership before. It's been really interesting to look over the transom and see how a corporation like Best Buy operates. You know, it's a whole different thing. But and then the unrest hit, and so the coalition is retooling a little bit to try to show the relevance rather of this opportunity gap to the unrest that we're experiencing as a country. The partners sent out a message Friday night to those of us that are working on standing this up that they are recommitted to this and feel that it's even more important than ever that we are able to address this opportunity gap in our state. So that's all I got for now. It's just kind of a heads up, but I'm really committed to ensure that the Northeast part of the state is at the table and gets an opportunity to benefit from that if those resources match needs. So with that, go ahead, Beth.
No, I said that's some cool stuff there. So, and it's challenging, I would imagine.
Challenging. Lots of opportunity in the crisis, I think. That's the way I'm trying to look at it. This is a time, kind of a crack in time a little bit, when people are forced to see things with fresh eyes in a new way, and I'm hoping we'll take advantage of this opportunity as a society to get better. Before we turn to kind of a closing, any other questions from anybody on the team to Mary or I or Whitney? So to close, and it's a little poignant because we're not going to be meeting again like this as a team. I mean, I guess we could, and especially if you guys extend the grant, sounds like we're going to do that to the end of the year. We're always here and happy to meet with you, but this is kind of our formal wrap. So Beth, I'd maybe start with you as the team leader as we go around to close. Let's just share out one hope you have for your team going forward.
Oh my gosh.
We started with hope. Let's end with some hope too for your team going forward.
Well, you mean my team on the phone right now with
Yeah.
me?
Yes.
Okay. Boy, I hope that our team can continue to expand. I think that life is all about connecting people with, you know, people who need something with the people who have something, and you just do that by projects and by being involved and being committed. And so I hope we continue to grow our partnerships and keep doing good things for this area. So.
And your leadership and this whole team has really, you guys have done some very creative work together across this is really the first and only so far team like this that we've had, a community, we call it in our lingo, community of interest, you know. I mean, you're a community of place too, but you've had some unique challenges geographically and I've, you know, we've worked with a lot of communities, and I've really seen the leadership on this team shine through for all the creative work you've gotten done. Jan, let's go to you, and then after you check in with or close out with your help, you can call on the next person. Go ahead, Jan.
Sure. Well, we've certainly need to have our assignments, our tasks ahead of us, and we'll brainstorm some more. Beth and Mary, I'm sure we'll brainstorm some more about how we can keep improving the site and working toward that. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to get reach to more of those artists and initiate some creative ways to keep their craft alive. Mary McReynolds. Mary.
Thanks, Jan. Yeah, my hope is to start seeing a lot of younger people and newer people to the area start to connect with the work that Beth is doing and that we're doing, and seeing the value and maybe making it something that they want to carry on when the rest of us are ready to sit in our gardens and drink iced tea.
Thanks, Mary. Sean, let's go to you.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm just hopeful that the work we're doing is going to have impact on the areas that we'd like it to have impact on. Everything that I've seen kind of gives me hope that these things are going to make a major difference. So I guess that's what I'm hopeful about.
Betsy, you've been had a special cat's seat on many of these teams. What's your hope for this team?
Well, I think it's been really neat to see a team, instead of sitting and complaining about negative narrative and all those sorts of things, just say, okay, well, let's work to change it. You know, we prefer the Iron Range and the communities we live in, and we want to share that story differently. So my hope is that we continue to keep doing that and just, you know, moving forward with it instead of dwelling on the negative. That's the hope I have.
Thanks. Whitney, what thoughts do you have for this team as we close out?
Well, it was just really impressive. It's always really impressive to hear all the different projects and to look, you know, I can see all the projects you guys are doing, but then I also see all the other teams, and the work that has gone on through this partnership with the Blandin Foundation is just really amazing. And I just hope to see it continue and the knowledge spread to others in the community.
I know we've really enjoyed this partnership with IRRR. We got to figure out a way to keep it going.
Mm-hmm.
Bill, you have some final words of wisdom, I'm sure. I count on you for that.
Yeah. You guys have done a great job, and you're a marketing organization, and it was interesting how quickly you decided how to spend your money and how quick it went out the door, and then kind of realized, oh, boom, there's kind of a, sometimes things don't go quite like you think they're going to go. So it's, I'm sorry I had to step out for a minute, but missed the discussion about what you might do with the rest of the dollars. So I would offer any assistance there in terms of thinking about that if you want that kind of assistance. Otherwise, but I love your emphasis on the arts and on music. And it's funny, my Iron Range story, when I used to work for the state many years ago, I served Northeast as the region. And when I left there after about 4 years, I was kind of bored with the job generally. So I thought, well, I'm going to go, I'll pick a different region, which I always regretted. I went to West Central Minnesota, so dull over there. But when I was heading out the door, one of the rangers said, well, I don't know what's wrong. We treated you almost like one of us. So when I see that real ranger, I think there's real opportunity there that I think Bernadine touched on a little bit is, Dick Nordvold used to be mayor of Hibbing and was worked for the IRRR. And he used to say, well, they still call me a pack sacker after like 40 years or so on. So that real ranger, though, that anyone can be a real ranger, an attitude, not a heritage necessarily. And so I'd encourage you to think about that as you move forward on your branding stuff. I'm really excited about the concept of the community of interest. And, we cast around for that for a little while. We talked about it. We always had it in our RFP. And I think there's a lot of potential that, the community-wide offers a lot of potential as well for a diverse set of projects. But when you're talking about, a motivated group of people with a lot of self-interest and shared interest, I think, you guys showed that you can really do things that have a positive impact across the geographic area, but in particular, your, community of interest, tourism related businesses. I'd really encourage you to figure out a way to, that speed test thing for St. Louis County, you should get all your resort businesses, all your tourism attractions to do that speed test and then gather the data. Ask them to send you, you send them the link and then say, send us back your results. And then you could really see kind of which resorts, which attractions have that broadband as an asset and which ones where it's a real issue. And then, especially for the ones where it's an issue, maybe help them in some way to try and get better service or tie it back into with Betsy and with the groups on who are trying to improve broadband. Because right now there's a grant available through the federal EDA for broadband and economic development, and that would be kind of micro area to do something in, but they're tied to economic development and jobs. And we've got a little work group meeting later this week to talk about some kind of regional application in Northeast. So, but I think that data is really important for your tourism attractions to know about, better, is the broadband good? Is that a marketing thing or is it a liability, and what do you need to do to improve it? So there you go. That's my thoughts. Nice job. You didn't take much coaching, so I always feel a little left out sometimes because you guys are pretty independent and already a well-oiled machine to get these projects. So congratulations on that.
I have questions about that.
Go ahead, Beth. Go ahead.
I would say I have questions about that speed test, but I will email somebody for that. So. Okay.
Email me, or Whitney's all over it, as well as
or Steve, if you know him, Georgie.
Or yeah.
Okay.
Steve Georgie.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yes, Georgie. Mary, any final words of instructions or advice?
Well, I know you guys can do it. I know you can spend this money well. So let us know how we can help.
Okay.
That's all.
Thanks again for all your energy and spending the time with us today. It was great to connect with you.
Thank
You know where to find us.
Okay.
Stay well.
Thank you. Yep. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.